The movie begins with Kelly and his wife, Amanda. Clay wakes up and he's surprised to see his wife coming with bags. When he asks her, she says that she needs to spend a few days away from people and live in a house near the beach because she rented it before. Then they go in the car and we learn that they have a boy and a girl, Rosie and Archie. Amanda says that the best thing about the place near the beach is that it is isolated and close to the city. We see her daughter Rosie watching her favorite series, Friends. Then they arrive at the rented house. They admire the view and beauty of the house. And the kids went swimming outside. Then Amanda went shopping. But she noticed a person who bought a lot of food and she's surprised by his behavior. Then they reached the beach, but the place was almost empty of people, even though the weather was hot. Then Rosie noticed that there was a ship advancing towards them from the sea. She told her family about the ship, and then they felt terrified as the ship approached them. Then they decided to escape after they saw the ship coming towards them until the ship collided with sand and stopped. At home, Amanda is surprised to find that the internet is down. You see a group of deer in the park. At night, they hear someone knocking on the door and feel terrified. Finally, they opened the door and the person who owned the house, George, appeared with his daughter, Ruth. George tells them that he tried to contact them, but there is no network or internet. So he asked them to stay with them because it was difficult to reach his house at the present time. At the same time, Amanda is uncomfortable when she sees George. Then George tells them that the power was cut off in the city and no one knows the reason. He asked them to sleep with them tonight. But Amanda refuses and becomes fanatical until Kelly arrives and convinces Amanda to back down. Then they discussed the problem of George and his daughter staying overnight with them, and Clay said it was just help until the electricity in the city was repaired. Then Ruth turns on the TV and they are surprised when they see the news that the broadcast, the network and the internet have been cut off. They felt afraid because they feared this thing because of terrorism and foreign interference. Then George and Ruth went down to the basement to sleep. Ruth was angry because it was actually their house and she could not sleep in the room. On the second day in the morning, Amanda finds that the news has broadcast a power and network outage. She felt terrified and terrified. When I woke up, he did not see the messages, so he decided to look for a newspaper to understand the situation. Then Rosie goes outside and sees deer in the garden. Then George was asked about Kelly and Amanda said that he went to buy a newspaper to check the news. Amanda tells him about the messages she received, but he says they are just fake news and that he is probably a hacker. Ruth was a little worried. We see Clay going shopping. But he did not know the way and noticed that the maps were broken. He saw a woman lost on the road, but he felt uncomfortable and did not make her ride with him. Then he saw a plane carrying many letters and dropping them on the ground. Here, Clay felt worried about these recurring events. On the other hand, we see George walking in the city and he was surprised by the sight of the houses and the chaos and that there was no one in the houses. He tried to search for anything useful until he found a wireless phone and tried to contact the government, but the network was down. Then he moved towards the sea and saw the body of a person buried. He discovered that there were many bodies on the beach and he did not know the reason. Suddenly he saw a plane falling from the sky towards him, so he ran to hide. When he returned home, he was afraid to tell them what he saw. Then he told Amanda that he was afraid of this day and that he felt that one day forces would come and attack America. He talked about the reason for the lack of network in the wireless phone and said that it is impossible for the wireless phone to lose the signal because it is directly connected to the satellite. Suddenly there is a strong sound that makes them scream from the intensity of the force and causes the glass to shatter. Then Amanda says that they should move until they find a way to understand the situation, and George tells her that they have nothing to do. Then she tells him that she saw someone in the supermarket who bought a lot of food and that he must know something. Then Clay comes and tells them about the letters that the plane dropped and gave them to George. Then they saw written in the letters words in Arabic that meant, "Death to America." Then they learn that there is a global attack on America. Then they decide to run away from home to a safer city. But George says it is better to stay because the danger is greater in other areas. Then they find the roads closed and crowded with many cars and no people. They knew that all the roads were closed and that there was no other way. So they decided to go home. At night, they heard a sound in the pool, and when they went, they found strange birds in the pool, and they did not know the reason. Suddenly they hear the same strong sound happening again and they close their ears. As a result of the force of the sound, the electricity turns off and the birds flee. Then they went to sleep with their children because they were afraid. The second day in the morning, Amanda woke up and did not find her daughter, Rosie. Suddenly, Archie finds that his teeth are falling out for no reason, and he is completely shocked by this. Ruth then says that this is due to an epidemic or disease. He must go to the hospital. Then they did not find their daughter, Rosie, and he became worried about losing his daughter. Ruth goes out with Amanda to search for Rosie, then they are trapped inside a small hut in the middle of the forest. When they go out, they find a group of deer around the hut, so Amanda tries to scream to scare the deer until they run away. Then George and Kelly arrived at someone's house to seek treatment. We know that this person is the person who bought a lot of food. Then Clee asked the person for some treatment for his son. But the man refused because he heard from the news that there was a great danger that would happen, so he collected food and medicine in anticipation of any emergency. George threatened him with a weapon until he gave him the medicine. Then they told him about the message written in Arabic, "Death to America." He said that he had read this message, but in Korean. Therefore, he felt that the world had created an international coalition to bring down America. Then George decided to go with Clay to a senior person working in the army to find out the news from him. He explains to him that he had heard about these military methods previously that countries used to weaken the opponent by cutting off his communication with the outside world to control him. In the last scene, we see Rosie in one of the houses, hungry and eating. Then she sees inside the house a basement with lights, a television, and videotapes. She turns on the Friends series, which she loves, watches it, and smiles because she finally found TV in her favorite series. This is the end of the movie. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more movies.